hi to all the new people that came over to my little corner of the world. Shout out to Khadija, because you did not need to do that for me. If you don't know who I am, I'm just a stranger. Hello, hi, I am That's Otaku. Over here on this channel, we'd like to talk anything that's anime, cartoons, movies, anything that's usually seen for kids. We talk about it for, well, us, because I wholeheartedly believe that animated characters are way better than actual human beings, because look at the world that we live in today. If you are new here or you just subscribed to this channel and you're just seeing me for the first time, maybe you came over here because Khadija told you to come over here. And if you don't know Khadija Mbowe, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. I don't. I'm so sorry. I suck. But Khadija was the one who shouted me out in her video recently, trying to shout out small YouTubers. And girl, thank you. You did not need to do that. You just truly didn't need to do that. And that's just a whole manifestation of the Black female empowerment, Black female love, and I love to see it. And thank you for passing the baton. I caught the baton, girl. I caught the baton. And with the baton, I'm gonna make this video because honestly, when I woke up this morning, I did not feel like doing anything. I did not feel like making a video. I did not feel like doing anything because the way that my depression be working, it worked against me sometimes. But we are here today because why? I had a video that I wanted to put out. Now, if you've been here for a while from the beginning, first off, thank you. I'm glad that you're still here. And second, you might know of another video that's very popular on this channel called Who Are You Calling a Troq, where I went into a little bit of an analysis on the racism episode from Teen Titans, where Starfire is being harassed by this asshole named Valior and being called a Troq, which was very reminiscent of how me as a Black person or any other person of color will be feeling when it comes to being approached with racial violence. Now, of course, I had to do it again, and a lot of people recommended that I watch the Static Shock episode, so that's of course what I did. Racism episodes are very powerful because they attempt to do something where it's like, we have to teach kids lessons. When it comes to cartoons or any type of animation, the demographic needs to get some type of lesson. We're going to teach them about racism, about prejudice, and about those things. And they always attempt these with so much gusto, but then it falls flat, at least for me. Going back as a kid and I'm watching them as an adult now, I'm seeing how they fall flat. If you do not know Static Shock is a show from 2000 and it's one of the DC superheroes named Static Shock. He's a young boy named Virgil who is wonderfully Black, has beautiful dreadlocks, and he is a superhero on the low. He has all these electric static powers where he can fly on an electric disc. He does all of that, and the show itself was very well renowned because it approached certain topics that other shows weren't doing, or at least a lot of shows weren't doing at the time. There's a whole episode devoted to Virgil dealing with the passing of his mom. There's a whole episode dealing with gun violence. There's a whole episode, of course, dealing with racism, because of course, if you have a Black character, you're gonna have to talk about racism or else you're not really a Black cartoon. Okay, but let's get into this, right? So the episode that I am referring to is season 1, episode 8, Sons of Fathers, where you have Virgil and his best friend Richie. Virgil is Black and Richie is white. Virgil has noticed that Richie, his best friend, never invites him over to his house. They're always hang out at Virgil's house. And Richie's like, oh, my house is just as boring. We don't really do anything. And Virgil's like, nah, bro, I'm gonna go to your house. Let's just chill. Let's just meet your family because we've been friends for so long. I feel like I should meet your family and get to know your side of the street. And it's like, I bet. Come over this Friday. Richie tells Virgil to come over, but doesn't properly prime Virgil for what is about to happen. So when it comes to the racial parts of this show, there's always one person that does the main antagonizing. And in this episode, it would be Richie's father. Now, I'm also gonna get on Richie's mother. I'm gonna get on you. I'm gonna get on you, ma'am. I'm gonna get on you. I don't know who her name is, but her name is Susan in my head. Susan, I'm gonna get on you. Richie and Virgil are having a decent time. They're enjoying each other's company. Virgil's excited to meet his mom, excited to meet his family and all that stuff. And you see like Richie and his mom have a conversation to the side where it's like, I hope that your father is supposed to be working late, da 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 da. And I'm just sitting here like, why the father gotta be working late? Why the father gotta be working late? Virgil, of course, doesn't know what's going on until, of course, the father walks in. We're gonna call the father, I don't know this father's name. We're just gonna call him father. The father over here, the minute that he got onto the screen, his energy just screamed off. His energy was very much off to me. My juju did not mess with his spirit. And when my juju doesn't mess with you, it really does not, there's no redemption for you. And my juju was not messing with him. And it's a good thing it did it, because the way that this man just goes about throwing all these microaggressions is absolutely abhorrent. Because he goes from saying things like, oh, we don't play rap music because all they do is this, that, and the third. He refers to Virgil's ethnic group, being black people, as like a they, a them, just like very much an other. He's doing this whole othering thing that makes it seem like they are not the same as him, that they are not human, that they are not worthy of being on the same level of him. It's a very much otherness feeling that you're getting from this man. And it just keeps going on and on and on. And Virgil, of course, is confused and tries to like make it seem like, oh, your father's not that way. He just doesn't like rap music. My father also doesn't like rap music. That's just an age thing. So, of course, Richie is feeling very much embarrassed for his father's behavior at dinner and all that stuff. And Virgil's like, nah, it's all good, it's all good. Let me go to the bathroom. Let me go brush my teeth. Virgil goes to the bathroom, goes down the hall, and he overhears this disgusting conversation between the father and the mother.
And now I see why Richie acts like a hood, Maggie. That kid's a bad influence. All his kind are.
Keep your voice down.
It's bad enough I gotta deal with them all day long. Now one of them's in my house.
What he says in terms of saying that his whole kind is a bad influence on my son. Sir, what does that mean? What does that mean? Bad influence how? Because as far as I understood, Virgil is Static Shock on the side. Granted, nobody in this universe is supposed to know that, which is stupid. You don't know this kid enough to be able to say he is a bad influence. You don't know him. You haven't had a conversation with him. This is your first time meeting him. So where are you getting this stereotype from? And of course you get it from the media. You get it from just a whole bunch of stereotypes passed down from generation to generation. And of course it is our job as the younger generation to try to break those toxic mentalities and break that cycle to be able to make things better for the next generation. And that's where Virgil's dad brings up saying like, hey, I know that that was a terrible experience for you, and I know that that was very toxic and you did not deserve that, but at least for Richie, Richie is trying to undo the damage that his father has.
I still don't get how a guy like Richie has a father like that.
That's a question that even Richie's father can't answer. That kind of hate feeds on itself. But Richie's made up his own mind about who to like. He's broken his father's cycle of intolerance.
Man, I had no clue Richie was dealing with something this whacked.
He's gonna need your friendship now more than ever.
Like, Richie is trying to undo that cycle and break that cycle, which, you know what, fine. Compliments to Richie for trying to break the cycle, but also, how are you not gonna warn your friend about your racist family? That's what I never understood. Like, you know your father is racist. You know that that's gonna be a toxic environment for your friend Virgil, your best friend Virgil. You know that Virgil is going to possibly be faced with racial violence, and you're not gonna say anything? You're just gonna not warn him? At least be honest and say, hey, my father has these tendencies. That way Virgil can be at least mentally prepared for that. You sent him into the lion's den without any help. And that wasn't right. If you're a true friend and you are a true ally and you know that your family has these type of tendencies, how are you not gonna warn your friend before they meet them? How are you not going to try to prime them? And here's why, because you don't want to have that hard conversation. Now, I understand that in this show, they're like, what, 14, 15? But this is just a whole thing where I'm just like, you know you have racist family members. You know you have racist friends. And you can't change your family. You can't change certain parts of your family at a certain age. But if you have a close friend of color, and you know that that person is in a vulnerable group where they can be victimized by your family, oh, you got to make sure that they are properly prepared when you go and meet them at your house and all that stuff. You can't just send them in with nothing. Now, as this episode continues, there's a whole other B plot where the villains of the show, remember, this is a superhero show, there's a bunch of villains. You have Shadow, you have Talon, you have a bunch of other people. In this case, Shadow goes about trying to be like, oh, I'm gonna get Static, da-da-da-da-da, and he, you know, there's that whole B plot going on in the background, but that's not the importance of this episode. After the embarrassment that Richie faced seeing his friend Virgil being victimized, okay, you're embarrassed because you saw your friend being victimized. What about your friend? Richie, what about your friend? But whatever. Richie runs away. Richie runs away and is just like, I don't want to be around my family. I hate my parents. I hate my dad specifically. I hate my dad. And of course the parents are concerned and they're like, how are we going to find our son? So the mother, who I told you I was gonna get back on. I told you I was gonna get back to the mother. The mother calls Virgil and says, "Have you seen Richie?" And Virgil's like, "No, I haven't seen him, but I'll make sure to keep an eye out for him." And the mother attempts to say like, "Oh, Virgil, about that," and Virgil interrupts her and says, "It's okay, I'm sorry too." Roll the clip, roll the clip, roll the clip.
Oh, Virgil?
Mrs. Foley?
Is Richie there?
Richie, no, he's not.
He didn't spend the night there?
No, he didn't, Mrs. F. I can call around.
Around and see if I can find him.
I'd appreciate that. Thanks. Virgil, about last night.
I know.
Me too.
Sorry for what? Sorry for what? Sorry for what? First off, Virgil, you are the victim here. You are the victim of a whole racial energy that did not need to be put on you, who is a child. You deserve an apology. This is my main issue with a lot of things where it comes to like racial issues in TV shows and how they approach this subject. They go about it as if like the racial event in question was not like a form of violence. They go about it as if it's just like an awkward moment, an uncomfortable like oops moment, like oops, you caught me with that. No. That was an intentional moment. That was an everything in that whole setup that made Virgil into a victim was intentional. And for the fact that this woman, who we're calling Susan, the fact that Susan did not go about fully apologizing for what happened with her husband is just one thing. Like, you see that Virgil, you hear what Virgil heard, you know what your husband did, and you're just not gonna go full force with this apology if you're calling to apologize as well. Virgil said, "It's okay, you don't need to say it." Virgil is an example of how a lot of Black people feel when they're faced with like weird, awkward racial parts or racial things in life. They go about this whole thing where it's like, oh, I don't want to make a big deal out of it. I don't want to go about making it seem like I'm like a victim here. I'm like a crybaby. I'm not, let me just forget about it. This is nothing. This is nothing. No, sir, it's not nothing. Virgil, it's not nothing. You deserved an apology, and you deserve to hear that apology in full. And I don't know why at the end of that clip you apologize, because what did you do? Are you apologizing for your existence? Because that's not what we're doing here. Are you apologizing for your existence? You are a child, and you were racially accosted. Granted, he wasn't saying it directly to you, but he knows damn well what he was saying about your kind and all that stuff. All of that was not your fault. It was the whole setup. You did not deserve to be in that setup. Let the woman apologize. Actually, not just apologize, but again, I'll get into this later. Now, of course, continuing with this whole video, you have Richie's dad going about with Virgil's dad. Richie's dad and Virgil's dad are going about trying to find Richie because Richie has now been kidnapped by the supervillains in the B-plot. You know the whole thing. During that whole time they're searching for his son, Richie's father is understanding how his ego, his racial bigot ego, has been essentially putting him at a distance with his son. He notices that his son is acting different, doesn't take him around his friends, doesn't connect with him as always. It takes some really big guts, we're going to say. It takes some big guts for Virgil's father to straight up confront him, and he's the only one that confronted this whole thing.
What your son heard, Hawkins, I wasn't talking about him.
No, you were talking about his kind, that's all. Well, I know your kind, Foley. I've seen your kind all my life. A fine, upstanding bigot. His nose so close to the grindstone he can't see anything else. Meanwhile, the world changes and grows, and he's blind to it. Ignorant. And proud of that, too.
And of course, Richie's dad tries to backtrack saying, oh, what I said about your son, I was saying it about someone else. I wasn't meaning it at him. But that's not any better. And Virgil's dad actually says, like, you weren't saying it about my son, but you were definitely saying it about his kind, whatever that means. And it just goes to show that you are a bigot. You are the type of, I know what type of guy you are. You are the upstanding bigot that thinks that they are a valued member of society because they just work hard, they do everything right, they just abide by the rules, and anybody that's not following his exact blueprint of life is all of a sudden an other, all of a sudden the problem, all of a sudden different, and then they don't look up one day and see how the world has changed from when they were younger, and they bring that pain and hatred that they saw when they were growing up into the next generation and poisons the next generation. You tried to poison your son with that hatred and it didn't work. That's why you're at odds with your son. That's why you don't have a connection with your son, because your son moved away from that and you did not. And the only person that acknowledged your fault in this was Virgil's dad. But Richie's mother did not acknowledge it. And in the end of the episode, after they do this whole saving thing and like, you know, Static Shock saves the day and all that stuff, you notice how the father never apologized to Virgil. The way that the episode ended was Virgil's dad calls out Richie's dad. They save Richie. Static Shock comes in and defeats the bad guys. And that's just about it. By the end of the clip, you just see them go and hang out at a convention as if nothing happened. First off, if I was around someone, a grown man like this, that had all of these thoughts about me and my kind, my ass would not be around. You did not change your thoughts that quickly. You did not change your thoughts that quickly. You did not change your thoughts that quickly. And I don't trust you right now. I don't trust you because a lot of that racial damage in your brain, it takes time to undo. Now, I don't know how much time has passed from, like, you know, when the incident happened to the end of that episode, but if we're assuming it was just in a matter of days or weeks or months, that's still not enough time for all of this healing to take place. Because again, what I'm going to bring up right now is the fact that when it comes to racial events, you need to have three things. You need to have someone acknowledge what happened and acknowledge what they did. In this case, Richie's father did not acknowledge anything. All he did was try to backtrack, say that it wasn't him, say that it wasn't what he intended. He didn't acknowledge what he did was wrong and how it was wrong. Take accountability for his actions and recognize that these are the thoughts that I was brought up with and I need to do the work to undo that so I don't inflict trauma onto you or someone else again. And then the last thing that's important, apologize. This meant no one apologized at all. The most that we had to talking about this awkward racial situation was Virgil's dad bringing him up saying, hey, you're kind of an ass. But no one else, none of those other two adults, whether it was like Richie's mom, Richie's dad, heck, I don't even think Richie fully apologized for the scope of what Virgil had to go through. Maybe the writers in the room didn't think that it was a big deal, but here's why I think it's a big deal. Children of color deserve to understand what apologies are. Children in general deserve to know what apologies are. When adults do something wrong to kids, they feel like they can just like, oh, we'll hang out, oh, we'll do this, and just like, it'll all blow over, ha ha, he, we're all gonna move past this. No. Apologize. You need to take accountability, acknowledge, and apologize for what you did to Virgil if you truly want to move past this in a healthy way. Because Virgil is a child. He should not have to go through trying to mitigate your feelings and make you feel like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, Mrs. Whatever your name is. Oh, it's not that big of a deal. Yeah, we can all hang out. No. You need to apologize. Black kids of color deserve to see apologies. And that's what a lot of these racism episodes don't do. If we're going back to the Troq episode that I did last time, in the Troq episode, you have Val talking to Starfire saying, oh, you must be one of the good ones. That was not an apology. That was you trying to say like, oh, you are a good one. You are of use to me. I will say that. That's not an apology. Apologize when you did something wrong. Acknowledge, take accountability, and apologize. AAA, where's AAA? Assistance is needed, and assistance wasn't there. Of course, there's more than one racism episode out there. If you want, I can make more episodes digressing or like digesting my thoughts on these racism episodes, because I have so many different thoughts about how like racism episodes are not handled correctly and how they can be done better. But of course, that's all I had for today. Thank you again, Khadija, so much for shouting out my channel. Welcome to all the new people who have shown up to my channel. Thank you guys. You really did not need to show up. I really appreciate all the love and support that I'm getting right now. I hope that our channel continues to grow. Please subscribe, and I shall see you guys in the next video. Bye.